I never imagined I'd see her again, me ex-wife with 4 kids that looked just like me. The moment I stepped into that crowded cafe, I felt the air thicken. My heart was a war drum, pounding in my chest. I scanned the room, and then there she was. Lisa, my past ripped into the present. Hair lighter, tied in a messy bun. But those eyes? Still hauntingly familiar, a sharp contrast to the chaos around us. 4 kids. They sat at her table giggling, whispering, stealing glances at strangers. Each face was a mirror, reflecting bits of me back. The little boy with the crooked smile-me smile. The twin girls with their wild curls-me curls. It felt like a twisted joke fate was playing. My hands trembled, gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. Why now? I tried to read her expression. Was she happy? Conflicted? Or perhaps just as shocked as I was? The cafe buzzed with voices, laughter, clinking cups, but all I heard was a deafening silence. I wanted to call out, to rush over, but my legs felt like lead. What could I say? Hey, long time no see. The memories hit me like a tidal wave. Our wedding, the laughter that filled our tiny apartment, the arguments that spiraled out of control. I wanted to ask about the kids, about everything. Were they mine? Did she think of me? Did she ever wonder if I still held the same love for her? There was so much I wanted to know, the burning questions trapped in my throat. Just then, her eldest caught my gaze. He stared back, curious and cautious, his eyes shifting between me and his mother. I watched in horror as Lisa's smile faded, replaced by a rigid tension. Did she tell them about me? The world around us blurred. The noise fell away. It felt like the two of us were frozen in time, while the life we once had danced around us. Could I break this spell? Then, without warning, she stood up, her chair scraping against the floor like nails on a chalkboard. My heart raced. Was she leaving? No, I had to act. The thought of her walking away again twisted my stomach. Did I want to jump in or run away? Mom, it's okay. The little boy pleaded, his voice high and trembling. Lisa's expression shifted, shock intermingling with something like fear. My breath caught in my throat. What was happening? I took a step forward, desperate. Lisa. It was a raw whisper. The cafe felt like it stopped, every head turning our way, mouths agape. I could feel the weight of their eyes. Please, her eyes darted to the kids, then back to me. She hesitated. Time froze, and every heartbeat thundered in my ears. What was she going to say? The silence was deafening. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cafe had settled back into its den, the moment stretching into an eternity. Lisa's gaze was filled with turmoil, swirling emotions that threatened to pull us both under. Every eye remained fixed on us, yet it felt like we were in a bubble far removed from the world. Why now? She finally whispered, her words laced with disbelief and hesitation. Each syllable was a weight I had to bear. I thought you were gone for good. Gone for good. The words struck like a blade. The very essence of our past echoed in the Meech argument that had built up the walls, the silence that had swallowed laughter, and the distance that had felt impossible to bridge. I took a shaky breath, my chest constricting as the kids watched, their innocent eyes wide with confusion. The truth felt vulnerable on my tongue, but it was there, raw and aching. I never stopped thinking about you, about them. Her face crumpled, the slight tilt of her lips turning downward. You left, she said, almost as if to convince herself. You made that choice. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the mistakes we both bore. But I didn't know, Lisa. I couldn't know. I swear if I had. A tremor passed through her, and I wished I could reach out and ease whatever storm brewed within her. I scanned the faces of the children, curiosity painted across their small features, uncertainty shadowing their innocent smiles. The little boy with the crooked grin stepped slightly forward, a sense of bravery clashing with his timid nature. Are you my dad? He asked, his voice quivering yet steady. It was a question I never anticipated, a jagged shard of glass piercing my heart. The silence was suffocating. Every eye belonged to a person who had not only observed us, but now bore witness to a fractured family standing on the precipice of what could have been. I felt Lisa's body tense next to me, a wall slowly erecting between us. We will talk later, she choked out, urgency creeping into her tone. She turned, grabbing the twins' hands, pulling them close, her eyes beseeching the oldest for understanding. Come on, guys. It's time to go. Panic surged within me, clawing at my insides. Wait, please. The word erupted, filled with desperation as I stepped forward. Just one more minute. The cafe pulsed around us, voices rising and falling, laughter bubbling up only to be muted by my unrelenting heartache. Truth. But now, before I could fully grasp the gravity of my words, the cafe door swung shut, a glaring silence left in its wake. In that echoing stillness, I realized something impossibly stark. Whatever I thought I could say or do was overshadowed by the weight of the choice I'd made years ago. They were not just a remnant of my past. They were real, living evidence of the life we'd once shared. With every passing second, uncertainty hung in the air like the brew of strong coffee filling the room. I felt an urgent need to chase after them, to scream her name until it was etched in the fabric of this wild, overwhelming cafe. But I stood there, paralyzed. As I turned to leave, my heart heavy with loss, the little boy's voice called out, echoing in my Minda plea filled with innocence and unbounded love. Dad, and as I walked away, the ache of his single word echoed louder than any other sound. I would have given everything just to feel those bonds tighten again, to have a chance to be more than a shadow of a memory. But then reality crashed over me anew, and the clarity struck like lightning through fog. I had to find them. I had to make it right. But how? And was it even possible? At that moment, the weight of uncertainty felt like chains, binding me to the remnants of a life I couldn't live and the ghost of a family I longed to know. The cafe slowly emptied, leaving behind scattered cups and an aftermath of muffled conversations that blended into an indistinguishable hum. I leant against the cold wall, fighting the rising tide of desperation that clawed at my chest. The warmth of the afternoon sun poured through the window, but all I felt was the chill of absence. I hesitated, torn between the urge to chase after them and the crushing weight of my own unworthiness. Memories cascaded through my mind, fragments of laughter and warmth, of a family that once felt whole. The little boy's voice lingered, an echo that tugged at the fibers of my heart. A child. My child. I could hardly fathom the years I'd missed, the milestones celebrated without me, the nights spent comforting his cries, and the stories that would forever remain untold. Dad, the word reverberated, not just in the air, but deep in my soul. As I stepped outside, the street buzzed with ordinary life. People hurried by, completely unawares of my heartache. Each face was a reminder of the mundane world I had abandoned, a world I now longed to be part of again. Yet, that longing was swiftly overshadowed by fear. Fear that Lisa might never let me back in, that the children might reject the ghost of a father. With every hasty footstep on the pavement, I struggled against an amalgam of hope and despair. Seeking solace in the familiar contours of the neighborhood, I found myself wandering past the old park, where we'd taken the kids to play countless times before I left. The swings still creaked gently in the breeze, a haunting soundtrack of memories to which I could no longer belong. The vibrant colors of the playground callously reminded me of how vibrant life had once been. I stopped, letting the soft whispers of the wind wash over me, intertwining with the guilt that had become an inseparable part of my heart. Suddenly, I spotted a figure in the distance, a flash of golden curls weaving between the trees. Gemma, one of my twins. She was playing with another child, her laughter ringing like a bell of light in the midst of my stormed IT. That moment, a rush of adrenaline overtook my indecision. I approached slowly, each footfall heavy with a mixture of fear and excitement. What if she recognized me? Would she run away, mirroring her mother's hesitance? I took a tentative step closer, my heart racing with every inch. Gemma, I called softly, suddenly aware of how strange it felt to say her name, as if it were a blessing from the past. She turned, her eyes widening with a blend of curiosity and confusion. For a heartbeat, it felt like time stopped. A flicker of recognition danced across her face. My breath caught. Dad? In those simple 3 letters, the weight of every lost moment returned to me, coupled with a surge of emotion so powerful it nearly brought me to my knees. The world around us felt muted, the laughter of other children fading into an indistinct background. Gemma, it's me, it's Dad. I took a cautious step forward, heart thundering in my chest, hoping that this wasn't just a mere fleeting glimmer of hope that would vanish as quickly as it appeared. Her gaze darted back to the other child, anxiety twisting her features, before she looked back at me, uncertainty etching deeper lines onto her brow. Mom said you were gone. I know, sweetheart, but I'm back now. I came to find you. All of you, I replied, wishing I could bridge the profound distance between us with mere words. Just then, I noticed a figure emerging from the shadows of the trees. Lisa. My heart plummeted as I met the steely resolve in her gaze. She held the twins' hands in one firm grip, the other tightly clutching Lucy, our eldest, who appeared as a protective barrier. The sudden tension was palpable, an electric current humming in the air. Gemma, come here, Lisa commanded, her voice fierce, sharp like glass. No, Mom. Gemma protested, the innocence in her eyes reflecting a child's desperate need for connection. The small conflict tore at the very fabric of my heart, and I stepped forward, desperate to reach out to my daughter. Please, Lisa, can we just talk? I implored, the urgency behind my words drawing her attention. But Lisa's expression was like stone, unwavering. Not here. Not now, she coldly replied, pulling Gemma closer, her jaw set. The sight of Lisa shielding the children from me felt like a knife twisting within my chest. I gripped the railing of the nearby playground, trying to slow the spinning world around me. Each word I had prepared seemed to disintegrate as fear consumed me whole. Don't you think they have the right to know? I asked, voice trembling. They deserve to hear it from me. They deserve stability. They don't need more upheaval. So, I'm asking you to leave, she replied, her voice steadier than the storm racking my heart. With every heartbeat, the ground shifted beneath my feet. I wanted to scream, to beg for understanding, for a chance to be a real father. But all I could do was watch as she turned, guiding the twins away from me, oblivion replacing my fleeting moment of hope. Tears threatened to spill, and my world felt unbearably small and crushing. As I lingered, still rooted to the spot, Lucy looked back one last time, her eyes searching mine as if silently asking for a promise. Would I be here again? Would our paths cross again in this wild dance of fate? Suddenly, a jolt of recognition struck, igniting an uppercut of emotions. Behind Lucy, someone entered the park, a figure I'd never thought I'd see again. The woman from the cafe, with a knowing smile, appeared from the other side, her eyes flicking toward Lisa, then back to me. A faint glimmer of understanding crossing her features. In that brief moment, as chaos swirled around me, a realization sank deep within. Lisa had drawn her line in the sand, but maybe, just maybe, those small acts of kindness could plant the seeds of hope. As the warmth of the sun began to fade, I knew my fight wasn't over. I had to follow that trail of light, for Gemma, for all my children, and most of all for the chance to make my existence matter in their lives again. But would I be strong enough to embrace this path, no matter how uncertain and treacherous it seemed? And could I find a way to breach the walls Lisa had built around her heart? Or would I forever remain an echo of the past? With that question burning brightly in my chest, I resolved to find the answers even if it took me to the very edges of my strength. The air shifted, charged with unspoken tension as I took a step back, my eyes glued to the woman striding confidently across the park. She had been a mere specter earlier, just a flash of familiarity amidst my chaos. But now, she embodied a potential lifeline I hadn't anticipated. I blinked, half expecting the image to dissipate like a mirage. Yet there she stood, resolute and real. In a heartbeat, my mind raced through thoughts. Why was she here? What did she want from me? But the moment of clarity was cut short as I stole another glance at Lisa, her form retreating with the twins like an impenetrable fortress. I couldn't let this chance slip away, not when something deep inside told me she might hold the key to understanding. That I surged forward, intent on catching the stranger's gaze. Hey, I called out, my voice cracking from the weight of everything I wanted to communicate. Wait, surprise broke across her face, but as I moved closer, I saw an underlying flicker of recognition. My mind whirred. Was she the one who noticed my despair in the cafe? Had she seen more than a broken man at his lowest point? Do you remember me? I asked, breathless, when I finally reached her. Yes, she replied, her tone soft but cautious, as though testing the waters. We spoke at the cafe. You were troubled. Troubled barely scratched the surface. I was drowning. I need help, I admitted, suddenly vulnerable, the admission slipping from my lips. They're my kids. But Lisa, my ex-wife, won't let me in. Her eyes flicked to where Lisa had been, observing the distant family whose closure was anything but easy for me to confront. It's a delicate situation, she observed gently, her brow furrowed in thought. What's stopping you from reaching out to Lisa directly? Fear, I admitted, the word hanging heavy in the air. Fear that I've lost her forever, that I'll never be welcomed back. Just looked at like a ghost. She nodded slowly, as if contemplating the veracity of my anguish. Somehow, amid the crushing weight of despair, I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me as I witnessed her empathy. What if you reached out through me? She suggested unexpectedly. Lisa knows I'm a friend. She'll talk to me. My heart raced, thoughts swirling. A friend? But how can I trust that she will help? Trust comes slowly. It's built on small acts, she reassured me, her eyes glimmering with kindness. We ought to take it one step at a time. As her words settled within me, I toyed with the idea. Each heartbeat thrummed with apprehension and expectancy. Could she truly be the bridge I needed? Would Lisa consent to a conversation, even if it was indirectly? Before I could respond, the woman stepped back, her gaze darting towards the playground. It would be best to talk soon, before she makes other arrangements. Before the kids leave, she urged gently. Can you? I hesitated, grappling with the surging surge of emotion that threatened to overwhelm me. Can you speak to her? She seemed to sense my hesitance and held my gaze firmly. You need to be ready. Understand that this won't be easy. You'll need to face the past and what you've missed. But if you fight, and if you keep fighting, you might open a door. In that instant, her presence felt like a flickering candle amidst my darkness. Warmth and light poured into my heart, and possibility kindled in the depths of my being. They'll try, I breathed, resolve solidifying within me as I took a deep breath. They'll do whatever it takes to reach my family. With a faint, encouraging smile, she stepped backward, glancing toward the exit that led out of the park. You have my number. They'll reach out to Lisa, she assured me. But remember, it's not just about your will. It's about your actions, too. I nodded, her words reverberating in my mind, bathing my uncertainty in a new light. Just when despair threatened to engulf me, this oasis of kindness rekindled my determination. Hope was an unsettling companion, fragile, yet necessary. As she turned to leave, I called after her, desperation tinged with a newfound strength. Wait, what's your name? She glanced back, her warm eyes like pools of reassurance. Sophia, she said softly, and you better keep fighting. Gemma and the others deserve every possibility. Sophia's figure grew smaller as she walked away, melting into the crowd of people that had once felt so foreign to me. I inhaled deeply, the cool breeze carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves, a reminder that change was inevitable, but it was also possible. Fingers trembling, I pulled out my phone to input her number. This was my first step toward the impossible, an opening, however heady and daunting it felt. My heart pounded against my chest, a drumbeat heralding the beginning of my journey back. Just as I was about to save the contact, an ominous vibration stopped me in my tracks. My phone lit up with an incoming text message from Lisa, the clarity of her words cutting through the air. The children are going away for a while. I need you to leave us alone until then. My breath caught, panic leaking into my resolve as I reread the message. A flood of uncertainty clawed at my heart. How much longer would I have to wait, and what would happen in this time away? With Gemma, Lucy, and the twins slipping further from my grasp, the reality of their absence settled in. I had no time to waste, and the distance lengthened just as hope flickered precariously. All I could think about was that I had to act swiftly, and without regret. Feeling the ground shift beneath me, I realized I stood at a threshold, teetering between fear and determination. And as I stared at the text, an acute ache surged through me, not just despair, but a fierce yearning. I wasn't going to give up. Not now, not ever. The clock was ticking, and my fight had only just begun. But what if I found myself out of time before I could bridge the chasm between us? Would I lose them entirely? With the weight of that fear pressing against my chest, I knew I had to formulate a plan. Every moment mattered. I just had to find a way to protect my fragile hope for the family I could still reclaim. The road ahead remained murky, but I was ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead in my quest for light, even if it meant facing the shadows of my past. The park was growing quieter, the laughter of children fading like the last rays of sunlight sinking below the horizon. I felt a storm brewing inside me, confusion and despair colliding like thunderclouds. I had just been gifted a lifeline, only to have it torn away in the blink of an eye. I looked down at my phone, Lisa's message glaring back at me like a warning signal. The children are going away for a while. The words echoed in my mind, each syllable wedging themselves deeper into my gut. I had just mustered a sliver of hope, and now it felt like sand slipping through my fingers. My heart raced as I thought of Gemma and Lucy, wonderful children who didn't even understand the turmoil swirling around their lives. They were innocent, and I was failing them. What kind of father was I when I couldn't be there for them? The ache of that thought pressed heavily on my chest, tightening as the reality of my situation clawed at me. I stepped away from the playground, seeking solace in the shadows of the park's trees. The last thing I wanted was to be an eyesore, reminding families of what I had lost. In the hushed solitude, I remembered Sophia's words. Trust comes slowly. It's built on small acts. How could I act now? My mind was a tangle of frustration and fear. The woman I once loved was steering her ship away from me, taking our children with her. The thought of them being away, the idea of them slipping further into a life where I played no role, made my pulse quicken with panic. I needed to reach out. This allowed fear to fester instead of taking tangible steps forward. What could I even say? Hey, can we talk about my right to be a father? The absurdity of it stung, bruising my confidence. As I wandered, lost in thought, I noticed a small park bench nestled beneath a towering oak tree near a pond. I took a seat, my heart racing as I stared out at the water, reflecting the dimming light. I thought of the conversations I'd had with my kids, their laughter, their little voices too brilliantly innocent for the chaos of adulthood. I dug into my pocket and fished out a frayed photograph, one I kept with me for occasions just like this. It was one of the last family outings we had, all of us grinning like we were on top of the world. I could almost hear their laughter in my mind, weaving through the fragile fabric of my memory. The sight of our smiles felt like a cruel reminder of what I could lose forever. A gentle rustle nudged my thoughts from the brink of despair. An elderly man, eyes twinkling like faded stars, sat beside me. He had a weathered demeanor, a lifetime etched into the lines of his face. You look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, son, he said, his voice rich with kindness. I blinked, taken aback by the warmth radiating from a complete stranger. Just navigating some tough waters that he tilted his head towards the pond, where the ducks swam leisurely, as if untethered by the burdens of life. Sometimes, we drown in our thoughts, forgetting the beauty around us. Don't let fear anchor you down. I couldn't help but smile softly, the comfort of his words weaving through my chaos. It just feels hopeless sometimes. You'd be surprised how often hope finds a way, he replied with a gentle smile. You have to fight for it, though. Don't let anyone, especially not fear, dictate your choices. Reach out, even if it feels awkward or unsure. His words sank into my bones, warming me from the inside like a slow-burning ember. Hadn't Sophia said something similar? Trust comes in small acts. Maybe reaching out was an act worth pursuing, even if it frightened me to my core. I appreciate that, I said, feeling lighter somehow. I'm scared. Scared is a human condition, he chuckled softly. Write a letter, pour your heart into it. Let her see the man you want to be, not the one who fell short. Small acts, remember? I nodded, my heart quickening at the thought of expressing my thoughts on paper. Maybe a letter could stretch across the void, offering a glimpse into my heart that words spoken couldn't. It was worth the time to pen something that could find its way back to Lisa, possibly even to my kids. Hope floated cautiously into my chest, the flutter of possibility igniting my resolve once more. Thank you, I whispered, feeling gratitude swell within me. The elderly man nodded and walked away, his presence a brief spark that shone in the encroaching dusk. The park was enveloped in shadows now, yet I felt a spark of clarity cutting through the confusion. I had to act, not just for myself, but for my children as well. I took my phone, fingers trembling with purpose as I stared at Lisa's message that burned like a brand across my mind. But before I could sign off and compose my thoughts into a shared letter, something grabbed my attention, a glimmer on my screen promising an unexpected twist. Another incoming text, but this one held a recurring name, Sophia. My heart raced as I opened it. Hi, just spoke to Lisa. She seems to think. A loud honk interrupted my thoughts, my heart dropping as I realized the message had been cut off. Just like that, another weight settled in my gut. What had she learned? What truth was contained in that abruptly halted message? I stared at the screen, the blood thrumming in my veins. My heartbeat quickened, a clock ticking down the seconds to something monumental. Without waiting for the message to load any further, I called Sophia, my hand shaking as I hit send. Would this be a turning point? Or was I about to face something even more daunting? The silence was palpable as I waited, my pulse screaming in my ears. Would I uncover a truth that could propel me toward healing? Or would this simply be another fracture I hadn't anticipated? The phone rang, and all I could do was pray my journey had not been in vain. As the phone rang, each heartbeat felt like a countdown, an echo in the quiet stillness that enveloped me. The weight of the moment pressed down like a heavy shroud, ensnaring me in a mesh of anticipation and dread. I still couldn't fathom what news Sophia had to share, but it felt pivotal, like the hinge upon which everything might turn. Come on, pick up, I muttered, glancing around the park, now bathed in a pressing twilight, the looming shadows evoking memories of happier times, or perhaps a lure into my own past mistakes. Just as I was about to hang up, a soft voice broke through the silence, a familiar yet distant melody. Hello, Sophia? It's me, I replied, my heart racing. What did you want to say about Lisa? Hey, she greeted, her tone layered with concern. I'm glad you called. I just got off the phone with her, and she's worried about you. Worried? Or just summoning the ghosts of what once was? I couldn't hide the bitterness creeping into my voice, the fear clawing at the edges of my soul. David, listen. This is complicated, Sophia said gently. Lisa feels the distance, and I think she's battling her own demons. But she doesn't want to take the girls away from you. She's afraid of how this all looks to them. A glimmer of light flickered in my chest at her words. But she's going through with it. I can see it in her message. She's ready to go. Sophomore, that's not what I gleaned this time, Sophia said, her words steady. She merely needs reassurances that you're still there, ready to be a part of their lives. She doesn't know how to ask. You mean I need to show her I'm not the man I was before? Is that even possible? I was gripping the phone tightly, trying to anchor myself in a sea of swirling emotions. David, it's not easy, but ultimately it's about showing her you're committed to healing. If you can put your heart out there, maybe she'll see glimpses of the man she fell in love with, Sophia encouraged. You need to write that letter. Open the door to vulnerability. I inhaled sharply at the thought of laying bare my heart. Hours earlier, I could hardly fathom expressing my feelings to Lisa. Now, the urge to fight for my family surged within me. It's terrifying, I confessed, every word punctuated by the anxiety rumbling in my chest. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action in spite of it, she replied, a note of warmth threading through her voice. You can do this, maybe. I was searching for the right words, feeling the sincerity in her voice weave its way across the connection like the glow of hope peeking through darkness. What if I still fail? You can't think that way. You have to believe you're capable of growth, of change. And so does Lisa, Sophia said firmly. Fighting for your family is a journey. Trust the process, and please, just don't give up. The conviction in her voice ignited a fire I thought had long been extinguished. Here I was, standing on the edge of something expansive and uncertain. Where do I start? Message her. Tell her you want to talk face to face, to give her everything needed to assure her you're committed to your role as a father, Sophia suggested. Okay, I said slowly, realization sweeping through me. I just need to put myself out there one more time. And remember, you're not alone in this struggle, she reminded softly. Whatever happens, they'll be here for you. Tears pricked my eyes, a swell of gratitude overcoming the tremors of fear. Thank you, Sophia. Really, the weight of loneliness felt lighter, if only just a little, as I contemplated the future ahead. Before we could end the call, Her tone shifted. "Oh, David, there's one more thing." My heart froze. "What is it?" "The reason I contacted Lisa was her mother. She's not well. Lisa may be more stressed than usual. It might affect everything," Sophia said, concern rising in her tone. A chill raced down my spine. A wave of dread washed over me as I processed her words. What did this mean for my girls? Lisa would be pulled in multiple directions, each strand threatening to fray under the stress. Was this the moment the weight of the world would crumble us all? "Thank you for telling me," I breathed, horror pooling in my gut. "I need to see her. I'll help however I can," Sophia promised, her voice a lifeline extending through the tumult of chaos. We exchanged a few more words before hanging up, but my mind raced through a chaotic storm of thoughts. Now, not only did I have to confront my own fears, but I had to step into the uncertainty of Lisa's family situation. Would she be even more inclined to shut me out? I clenched my phone, urgency pulling me toward action. Sitting on the edge of despair, yet buoyed by a flicker of hope, I needed to craft my message, a single flicker in the dark. I envisioned my daughters' faces, their laughter overpowering the shadows. Maybe that was enough to keep me afloat. As I began typing, the phone buzzed again. Another incoming text that alarmed me even further. This time, it was a brief message from Lisa. "We need to talk," but it's serious. A tightness coiled in my chest, fear threatening to take hold once again. Heart racing, I steadied my hands. Unraveling the ties binding us wasn't going to be easy. I had to face the seriousness of my situation, not just for myself, but for the girls waiting in the wings. What if this was a conversation that could change everything? The clarity I felt moments ago began to slip away as the weight of uncertainty landed heavily once more. My resolve hung equally between hope and dread, and if I wasn't careful, it might pull me under before I even got the chance to fight. As the dusk enveloped the park, I remained frozen on the bench, staring at my phone. Lisa's message lingered in my mind, each word a nail driven deeper into my heart. The urgency of it felt like a gaping wounded door, just slightly ajar, revealing the abyss that waited beyond. Anxiety kicked in again, clawing at my insides, demanding attention. Trembling, I took a deep breath before typing back. "When and where?" It felt both brave and foolish, like standing at the precipice of a cliff, unsure of the depths below. As I pressed send, daylight faded, and a nearby street lamp flickered to life, casting an orange hue over the surrounding trees. With every passing second, the weight of my past pressed harder against my chest. How could I bridge the chasm that time and pain had carved between us? I stood and began to walk, each step echoing in my mind like a metronome counting the seconds. I approached the playground where our daughters once played, echoes of laughter and joy entwined with whispers of regret that painted my memories in deep shades of melancholy. Paradoxically, it was these memories that allowed hope to bloom. The ping of my phone startled me, and in that moment, I was again trying to navigate an avalanche of feelings and fear. Lisa had replied, "Tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the cafe on Elm." I stared at her words, willing them to settle like pebbles in a stream. Tomorrow. It seemed both far away and imminent, a pendulum of time swinging with perilous uncertainty. I had so many things to convey, yet the words felt trapped in my throat. What could I say that would ease her worries? How could I assure her that, despite everything, I was determined not only to change, but to become the person our daughters needed? As I wandered further, 2 boys, probably no older than 8, played tag. Their lives seemed untouched by the chaos that loomed over mine. One of them stumbled and fell, sending ripples of laughter into the air as he bounced back up. Examining the way his friend immediately offered a hand, I felt a pang of desire for simplicity, a reminder that kindness exists in even the messiest situations. Just then, a warm voice interrupted my reverie. "David." I turned to see Sophia approaching, a gentle smile adorning her face. "Hey, what are you doing here?" The surprise in my voice cracked through my anxiety, injecting a small dose of calm into my spiraling thoughts. "I was in the area and thought I'd check on you," she answered, concern mingling with her kindness. "You seem a bit lost." "I guess I am." I forced a chuckle, though it was more of a broken note. "I just found out I have a meeting with Lisa tomorrow, and I'm worried I won't know what to say." Sophia moved closer, her presence grounding me. "It's understandable to feel that way. Just remember to be honest. Speak from your heart. Sometimes the simplest truths carry the most weight. I took in her words, how they draped over me like a soft blanket. What if she doesn't see me as that person anymore? She might need time, she said, her eyes reflecting understanding. But even the smallest seeds of change can bear fruit, David. Let her see how much you've grown. But be prepared that it might take more than one conversation, no pressure or anything. I muttered, feeling the pressure rekindle within me. What if this is the last chance I have? Sophia placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, a simple gesture that thawed the ice surrounding my heart. Then make it count, David. Fight for your family. They deserve a father who believes in redemption. You deserve that chance. I nodded but couldn't shake the dread gnawing at the corners of my spirit. As much as I wanted to believe in possibility, I was haunted by the shadows of my past. I needed to confront the swirling storm within me, failures, my shortcomings, and hope Lisa could see a refracted light shining through. Thank you, Sophia, I finally said, embodying a sliver of gratitude that felt as fragile as glass. You're really helping me more than you know. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed again, this time an alert from my inbox. I hesitated, instinctively knowing it was going to complicate things even more. I glanced down and felt my heart drop. It was from Lisa. I hope we can talk beforehand. Something happened with my mom today. A suffocating sensation wrapped around me, twisting like a vice. Sophia, I breathed, anxiety spilling from my lips. I might not have the conversation I envisioned. What if it's about something serious? What if the weighty implications of her mother's health clashed with the conversation I was preparing? Did this mean more stress? More chances to misunderstand? Sophia squeezed my shoulder gently in support, but I could barely focus on her comfort. My mind raced ahead, weaving intricate narratives filled with fear. What if her mother was too ill to provide guidance? What if this complication drove a wedge even deeper into our fragmented family? You need to get clarity, David, Sophia urged softly, reiterating my need to keep the lines of communication open. Hesitatingly, I nodded, torn between the consuming dread and an ember of resolution. I need to see her, I said, breath hitching in my throat. I can't let this moment slip away. I pulled out my phone, adrenaline surging as I drafted another message. I'm here for you. Can we talk tonight? As I hit send, I watched in horror as the screen dimmed, rendering me powerless in that moment of waiting. The seconds ticked by painfully, each one heavy with potential and uncertainty. What if whatever her mother faced tore us further apart instead of bringing us closer? Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, jolting me from my spiraling thoughts. Lisa's name lit up the screen, and I took a quivering breath, knowing this was a moment that could change everything. But could we rise above the turmoil, or was this another step toward the growing chasm between us? My heart raced as I pressed the button to open the message. In the quiet of that fading evening, I prepared for what might be the most pivotal moment of my life, floating in a sea of hope and fear. The cafe on Elm was unusually alive with chatter when I arrived the following day. Sunlight spilled through the large windows, illuminating the faces of patrons sipping their coffee and lost in conversation. My heart raced as it drummed a chaotic rhythm against my ribs. Anxiety felt like thick fog enveloping me, obscuring my clarity and making it nearly impossible to remember the words I had rehearsed the entire night. Finding a cozy seat with a clear view of the entrance, I sipped on my lukewarm coffee, trying to ground myself in the moment. The barista's cheerful laughter floated past me, a reminder of the normalcy I had long deserted. I found myself wishing for the comfort of familiarity, yet the ghosts of my decisions loomed heavy in the air. The door swung open, and a gust of wind swept through before Lisa stepped inside. She still wore that same effortless grace I remembered, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration as her eyes scanned the room. I wanted to stand up, to wave her over, but I felt frozen, a statue made of fear and regret. As she settled down at the table, the distance between us felt unbearable. With every passing second, the weight of unspoken words pressed down. David, she said quietly, her voice a hesitant melody that struck a chord deep within me. My name sounded foreign, yet deeply familiar, falling like rain upon cracked earth. Hey, I managed, my throat tightening under the weight of every moment we'd shared, the silence punctuating the air between us. She was so close yet so far, a painful reminder of all that had transpired. "How have you been?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, as if searching for answers hidden in my expression. "I've been trying," I replied, wishing I could say more, but the truth felt heavy and unformed. "You? I'm okay," she said, her gaze dropping for a moment before meeting mine again, and in that moment, I saw the flicker of vulnerability behind her guarded eyes. "Things have been complicated lately with Mom. Today is especially hard." Her admission struck me like lightning, igniting a chaotic mix of empathy and guilt. I knew that her family had always wrapped around her, a tapestry woven tightly with love and obligation, and I felt like an intruder in their sanctuary. "I'm sorry, Lisa. You need someone to talk to him here." She looked at me, her expression swirling with conflicting emotions: sadness, fear, perhaps even hope. "We're still figuring things out," she said softly, "and I don't know if having you in my life again is the right thing." With those words, the chasm I had feared seemed to widen, pulling on the threads of patience I'd hoped could sustain us. "I understand," I replied, voice barely above a whisper, feeling the reality of our situation crashing down on me like waves upon frail shores. The clatter of dishes snapped us from our stalemate, and I noticed Sophia sitting at the corner table, a novel in hand but her eyes trained on us. In that moment, I felt a surge of gratitude mixed with unease. Sophia had been an unexpected ally, but even her presence felt like a reminder that I was not wholly alone in this battle. "Let's get back to why we're here," Lisa urged, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. "Before we talk about anything else, I need to address what happened yesterday with my mom." Her voice quivered slightly, and I realized the weight of fear in her heart mirrored my OW. "And that I am here for you," I said, trying with every fiber of my being to provide that lifeline she needed, even as my own heart felt like it was teetering on the edge of despair. She took a shaky breath, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "She had a fall at home. Nothing too serious, but the doctor said she needs help more than ever, and it has me worried." I shifted in my chair, aching to reach out, to comfort her. "That's a lot to handle. I can't imagine what you're going through," I said, the words still feeling inadequate. "Except you can," she replied, voice breaking in a way that made my heart ache. "You've known. You've been through your own chaos." The raw honesty ignited something deep inside me, a longing to connect, to understand each other against the tide of time that had swept us apart. With that, our conversation morphed into a slow unraveling of emotions, the kind words, reminiscing about old times, laughter punctuated by the heaviness of the present. But with every shared piece of ourselves, I felt the past lurking as a specter, taunting me with the potential of failure looming in the wings. That I longed to tell her how I had changed, how I had fought to grow better, to face my demons and overcome my shortcomings, not just for myself, but for our daughters. But with every word, I stumbled over the specter of doubt. Was it really enough? Then, Lisa's phone buzzed on the table, disrupting our fragile moment. Her face paled as she reached for it. "Oh no, it's my sister," she said, her voice thickening with worry. "This may not be good." That I watched as her mood shifted, the weight of uncertainty settling back over us like a heavy cloud. "What if it's about Mom?" she murmured, staring at the screen as if it possessed the power to alter everything. "Oh, you want to take it?" I asked, leaning forward in concern. "Yeah, I should," she replied, the color draining from her cheeks. "Excuse me for a moment." As she stood to receive the call, I couldn't shake the sense of foreboding. What if this was the moment everything slipped further from my grasp? I had finally started to grasp the notion of rebuilding our fractured relationship, only to watch as shadows threatened to envelop it once again. That I took a deep breath, trying to find my center in the roiling storm of emotions swirling within me. My focus shifted to Sophia, who offered a comforting smile from her distant corner, yet her expression mirrored my uncertainty. When Lisa returned, her expression was unreadable, her composure shaking. "I need to go," she said, urgency coursing through her voice. "Can we talk later?" Before I could respond, she turned abruptly, her eyes showing a flicker of panic that gnawed at my heart. The weight of the moment felt insurmountable as she rushed toward the exit, leaving echoes of unspoken words hanging in the air. That I sat in stunned silence, the cafe suddenly feeling like a vacuum around me, compressing the breath from my lungs. This was not how I had envisioned our conversation. Nothing was resolved. All the threadbare pieces I had hoped to mend seemed to unravel before my eyes. With an overwhelming sense of dread, I reached for my phone, intent on sending her a message to assure her I would be there. But as my fingers hovered over the screen, another notification buzzed to life, this time not from Lisa, but from an unknown number. My heart began to race again, a chill cascading down my spine as I slid open the message. David, you need to know something important about the past, something about being a father. The words sent shockwaves through me, echoing the urgency of our fragile ties. What could this mean? My heart sank, the weight of the unknown looming large as pieces of my life shuddered and shifted around me, threatening to spiral beyond my control once again. The cafe felt starkly empty now, the whimsical chatter muted under the weight of unresolved tension. I stared at the flickering screen, my pulse drumming in my ears as the message lingered ominously in my mind. What could possibly be so important about my past that warranted a message from an unknown number? My heart felt like it was lodged in my throat. The steam from my coffee curled in a lazy spiral, reminding me of the warmth I'd felt just moments before, when Lisa had been here, the moments when hope had danced in her eyes, even amidst the chaos. Now, hope felt like a drowning ember, receding in the tide of uncertainty that I glanced at the door, willing Lisa to return, for her presence to ground me in reality once more. The bustling world outside continued unchanged, oblivious to the storm of emotions raging within me. But she was gone, and I was left with my thoughts tormented by fear and regret. Finally, I clicked on the mysterious message, an electric thrill of anxiety shooting through me as the words unfurled. I know about Charlotte. You have a daughter, David, and she needs you. My breath hitched, sweeping over me in a wave of confusion and shock. Charlotte? How could someone know about her? I had buried those memories deep, carefully crafting a narrative that had kept the demons of my past at bay. Was it true? Was she still out there? I had fallen so far from the man I once was, and now this revelation threatened to drag me back into the darkest corners of my soul. Questions flooded my mind like tidal waves, each crashing over the last. How could I be a father to a child I barely knew existed? My heart rebelled at the notion, but the sting of reality gnawed at my insides. What if Charlotte needed me? What if she had been searching for answers? I quickly glanced around the cafe, feeling the weight of eyes upon me. Sophia was still in her corner, her book forgotten as she watched me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I was caught in the web of her concern, a reminder that I wasn't completely alone, yet unable to share the chaos unfolding within me. The message hovered in the air like a dark cloud, an uninvited reminder of my past mistakes. My hands trembled as I drafted a response. But how could I respond to something so explosive, so laden with implications? The fear of being too late grew heavier, suffocating the breath from my lungs. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open again, and the sunlight spilled into the space, illuminating the faces of arriving patrons. But it was rounded, familiar features that caught my eye. Lisa was back. Her face was pale, drawn tight around the eyes, carrying a burden I couldn't comprehend. I stood up instinctively, my heart racing. Lisa, I called, urgency creeping into my voice. She stopped short, her gaze darting toward mine, brimming with uncertainty. David, she began, but the words unfinished business loomed just behind us. How could I provide support for her when I was still unraveling in my own crisis? I have something to tell you. Lisa, I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. It's about the message I just received. It concerns our past, and it's important. But before I could utter another word, a figure emerged at the doorway. My breath caught as I recognized the one face I had tried to forget, but couldn't escape, the very embodiment of my guilt, my former life. It was Janet, my ex-wife, her expression a mixture of determination and fear. The air shifted, charged with an unsettling energy. David, we need to talk now. It's about Charlotte. Time seemed to freeze as the fragments of my world began to blur, the boundaries of my past and present collapsing like dominoes. Everything teetered on a precipice. I had no control over, a convergence of three lives that would forever change the course of my journey. Just when I thought I had arrived at a turning point, Janet walked in as though conjured by the shadows of my own making. My heart dropped as I turned my gaze from Lisa's pleading eyes to the woman I had hurt so terribly in the past. The heat of shame washed over me, a consequence of choices that had generated a cyclic turmoil I could hardly face. David. Janet's voice trailed in, laced with urgency, breaking the spell of silence that had wrapped around us. The cafe buzzed around us, yet it felt like the universe had pivoted on this one moment, leaving only the three of us embroiled in the tempest of a life we had each lived in fragments. Not now, Janet, I managed, my voice hoarse as the weight of years and decisions pressed heavily on my chest. But she stepped forward, determination etched on her face, brushing aside my instinct to retreat. It can't wait. I just found out about Charlotte, she said, the vulnerability in her tone cutting through the chaos like a beacon of clarity. The world around us blurred into the background as my thoughts erupted into a cacophony. Charlotte, daughter, this innocent life who had slipped through the cracks of my reckoning. I could feel Lisa's presence beside me, her expression wavering between confusion and disappointment, eyes wide as she witnessed my past emerging with tangled roots into our fragile present. Charlotte? I echoed, my voice barely a whisper, bewildered. You know about her? I've been trying to find you, Janet said, the sincerity in her eyes grounding me as much as it terrified me. We need to talk. It's about her health, David. She's been struggling, and you need to be there for her if you can. Struggling. A chill crept through me at her words, tightening the knot of dread in my stomach. What do you mean? But my gaze flickered back to Lisa, whose face was an intricate tapestry of emotions, pain, anger, confusion, a reflection of my own inner turmoil. David, you're really going to pull this now? She said, her voice strained with disbelief. It wasn't my intention, I breathed, the reality of this moment crashing through like a tidal wave. I had just gathered the fragments of our lives to share with Lisa, planning to mend what had been lost. Yet here stood a hue of my past threatening to unravel everything before a single honest word could emerge. She needs her father, Janet said, her voice firm yet fragile as though she were walking a tightrope herself. And she needs you to step up, David. Things have happened that you need to know about. You're her only hope. The words clawed at my insides like talons. Did I even deserve to be a hope for her? Guilt twisted within me, curling around my heart. Could the chains of my past really be unshackled? I turned back to Lisa, searching for a speck of understanding in her eyes. I didn't know about Charlotte. Well, now you do, she retorted sharply, arms crossed protectively, as if preparing for the fallout of what this storm would unleash. Do you actually think you could just waltz back into a family when you have another daughter? Lisa, and can you even comprehend the damage this does to us? Her voice tremored, raw and vulnerable beneath her anger. And I couldn't blame her. Everything I had built a semblance of strength upon was crumbling, stripped bare by truth and betrayal. But as I tried to find my footing in the chaos, Janet's quiet resolve gripped me again. David, please. You can't turn your back on her. Charlotte needs you now more than ever. Each word resonated against the backdrop of my memories, the face of my daughter crystallizing into clarity. I had failed once, and now the question loomed, could I dare to fight for another chance? Charlotte, the name tumbled from my lips, heavy and weighty. What happened? She's been diagnosed with a chronic illness, Janet explained, tears pooling. It's manageable, but she's struggling to cope, and I don't know how to help her. We can't keep this from you. She needs to know her father is in her life, especially now. An indecipherable mix of multiple emotions surged through Megwalt, love, dread. My heart raced. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We thought you weren't ready, Janet said softly, but she deserves to know her father, despite everything. My world spiraled as reality plunged into sharp focus. Amidst the wreckage of my decisions, this was the chance to write a new chapter, to be a part of something bigger than myself. But would it be enough? Is there anything I can do? The words burst out before I could censor them, an instinctive response wrapped in layers of desperation. She needs to meet you, to know you want to be a part of her life. If you can do that, if she can see you're stepping up, then she might have hope, Janet assured me, her face a fragile mask reflecting her own fears. Charlotte is as terrified as you are. I know it seems impossible, but you must take this first step. Silence enveloped us as I absorbed her words, suddenly realizing that nearly 2 decades of my life had been spent lost in shadows. Yet here was an opportunity to step toward light, even if it meant acknowledging the darkness that came before. The gravity of what was at stake anchored me, tethering me to fragile hope. But my focus drifting back to Lisa, who stood decidedly still, her eyes swirling with unspoken words and emotions that cut deeper than knives. This was not how I had imagined this moment. Yet maybe it was how it needed to unfold, the churning path of our past bringing us closer, even as shadows threatened to drift us apart. Lisa, I can't change what's happened, but I began, the sincerity undeniable. I felt the fire sparking within my chest. You're not alone in this. I know I've failed before, but I want to do better for both of you. Tears glistened in her eyes, vulnerable yet fierce, as if challenging me to stay true to my words. And what does that mean? What are you prepared to risk? Everything, I breathed, the truth echoing from the depths of my soul. Because I have to try. The silence pulsed between us, tension vibrating in the air, but in that moment, I saw the flicker of change reflected back in her gaze. Maybe we had each been holding fragments of hope buried beneath layers of pain. Perhaps this myriad of chaos could somehow lead us back to something worth salvaging. As the shadows loomed, my resolve crystallized against the tide of uncertainty surrounding me. I had walked this path long enough, haunted by desperation, and now it was time to step forward, to forge a new chapter amid whispers of what had come before. Leaving the cafe, as I looked back, I spotted Sophia watching with a proud smile. Maybe she had been a part of this journey, leading me back to my fight, and reminding me that a glimmer of kindness lit even the darkest corners. And as the doors closed behind us, I held on to the fragile threads of possibility, of redemption, of hope, and the shadows fading as I simply chose to believe. After all these years, perhaps it was time to embrace every heartbeat, every lesson, and every ounce of forgiveness, for I was destined to reclaim the father I longed to be. And, in that moment, I set foot toward the light, determined to bridge the fractures that had once shaped my life. With the warmth of possibility enveloping me, I whispered to the wind, "I'm coming, Charlotte. I'll find you."